Hi, we're here today with our Arizona Drag Racing Legends with Dan Owens of Tucson, Arizona. We're here, we happen to be at Tucson Dragway during their annual reunion race, and this is where people in Southern Arizona get, brought into the Arizona Drag Racer Hall of Fame, which is going to happen a little bit later tonight. So, congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, thank you.
What does that mean to you?
Well, what I would say to you is, I don't think I deserve it, but the right person nominated me, and obviously he thought I deserved it, and the committee thought I deserved it. So with that, I'm grateful.
Well, that's really a big honor.
Yeah.
You're part of of Arizona drag racing heritage,
Yeah.
and that part of what that story we're going to talk about now is what makes you an Arizona drag racing legend. So how do you feel like people calling you the legend? Is it like?
Well, I don't know. They actually call me Uncle Dan, not the legend, but
Well, it might change.
yeah, you never know. But the thing of it is I moved to Tucson in 1963, and my old man worked at O'Reilly Chevrolet. So that was a big deal for me. I started getting into Chevrolets. I mean, I got my first car as it was a 55 Chevy that my old man took in on trade, then my 67 Chevelle, and it went like that, In 1965, I moved in next door to Red Greth. And
It was all over.
It was all over. The rest is history.
How old were you then?
I was 9, 10, something like that.
Wow.
And obviously, Kendall and Kenton, Red's two sons, were my age. So between the three of us, we caused a lot of problems in the neighborhood. But Kenton was always a good one. It was me and Kendall. But I was blessed. I mean, I joke about it. I didn't know anything about drag racing. I went out one weekend with the Greths, and the rest is history.
Do you remember where you went?
Tucson Dragway. Yep. On
The old
one
Tucson.
on Houghton and Poorman. And that was in the middle of nowhere back then. So, but I talked to someone earlier about it. We were actually Mike Savage was in my store the other day talking to me, and we were talking about drag racing and all this stuff. And Mike used to drive jet cars, and I said, well, I never got to drive a jet car. And we started talking about it, and I said, well, wait a minute. When Palomides used to spend the night at Red's house or leave his car parked there in the front yard, I must have made 1,000 runs in that car sitting in it, pretending like I was making quarter-mile passes.
Romeo.
Yeah. And it was, Kermasini's, Evel Knievel, Jimmy Nix, Garlitz, all those people I had the privilege of meeting one-on-one because of Red Greth.
You 10 years old at this time. Mm-hmm. You went on, loving drag racing, loving racing. Go to high school. When you went into high school, you got other people with cars and stuff. Did you feel that because of what you knew, what they knew, you kind of like knew more than they did a little bit, and you brought them along into it as well? Did you say, come out to the races with me?
No, I was pretty independent, and what was lucky is that Lyle and Red had this shop over off of Speedway in Craycroft, and every minute I was over at the shop, and I learned how to use tools and equipment and weld. And I remember spending hours on the bandsaw cutting out brackets for some of the speed sport cars I built, and that was just. That was a big deal to me, because here I am, this 12 or 13-year-old punk, building car parts because of their knowledge. Lyle used to make spoke front wheels for dragsters. All of us spent many hours on the buffing machine buffing spokes.
Not an easy job.
Yeah.
So you got this great mentorship, tutorship from Lyle.
And Red.
And Red, excuse me.
Yeah.
You started, 10, 13, 14 years old. When was the time for you to start building your first race car?
I went down, I was a sophomore in high school.
Where'd you go to high school?
Saguaro High School here in Tucson. I had no driver's license. Back in the days at Tucson Dragway, on Wednesday nights they had an open, well now we call it an open test and tune. I don't know what they used to call it back then. So me and my buddy took his mom's Datsun 510 sedan out there with an automatic, and that was the first car I ever drove down the drag strip, and I was hooked.
Wow.
Yeah. So we took turns driving it that night, and then I got a '67 Chevelle while I was in high school, and that was my first drag car. And many different styles and versions and class cars have I had. The last time I competitively raced was in probably the late 80s. I sat in the staging lanes at Firebird for 3.5 hours during a jet car show, and I said I'm never going to do that again. And that was the last time I drag raced competitively.
The one thing about drag racing, you better have a lot of friends because you do a lot of waiting.
Yes,
You know, a lot of people to visit with.
That's exactly right.
But that didn't stop you from being involved with racing.
No. I was still involved, and I mean, we closed the track. As Bob Huff took over the track, the old drag strip, in 1968, and he had it up until about, I would say the mid 70s, probably. Red had just built the extended version of the Speed Sport car. We'd done a match race with Garlits out there, and it wasn't long after that Bob Huff got out of the business, and Gerald Johns took it over. And I worked out there for a little while with Gerald, but we had different ways of doing business, so I left. And then I was done with drag racing. I mean, I shouldn't say I was done with drag racing. I still had a Volkswagen drag race car. Had gone to Orange County a couple times, and every once in a while during a tested tune I'd go out and play around, but I just got tired of the waiting. You know, it's part of drag racing. But you know, in the earlier days at the old Tucson Dragway, I mean, I worked all areas. I worked in tech, I announced for a while, I ran the clocks. You know, I did a lot of different things in different aspects of drag racing. And Steve Barr, who was the track manager there, I would say to you, as far as operational goes, he was my mentor. That guy knew everything about everything, and he was really good.
So the wonderful Tucson Dragway, both of them are wonderful tracks, the new one and the old one. And you had a lot to do with the new one even being here. But
Yep.
but the old Tucson Dragway, guy living in Phoenix, remember, got to come down to Tucson. I always enjoyed it. Never had a bad time at Tucson Dragway. I loved the people, the friendships. Everyone was so welcoming. But you had some shows that were bigger than others. What were your favorite shows back in those days?
My favorite show, probably the one that stuck out more than anything else, was in 1968 when Bob Huff took over the show. He was going to do a promotion, and he brought in 8 funny cars for a match race, and it was a big deal back then. And they had contacted O'Reilly Chevrolet, so like 2 days prior to the drag race, all the cars would be on display over at the Chevrolet dealership up in the showroom with the bodies up. And they used to, I mean, that's how it used to be. That's how they used to promote drag racing, you know, because they weren't buying airtime on the radios back then, at least locally.
There was
here.
no Facebook.
There wasn't, yeah,
No
social
email.
media. I still don't
Yeah.
do that, but whatever. And that was probably one of my most memorable times. But you know, some of the other things that were memorable to me back at Tucson Dragway was riding in a push car, pushing off a car from the top end, and you know, hearing that car build up oil pressure and then letting them hit that mag switch and then seeing the flames come up over the hood of the car. You know, that's probably one of my most favorite memories. And the other thing that Red always made us feel like we were a part of, you know, things that we got to do was to take the oil out into the desert and pour it, and then put new oil into the car, you know, and that was a big deal. Sure. I mean, here I am, a punk kid working on a top fuel dragster, you know.
So, I that experience of riding in a push car all kind of went away when they started static starting race cars, but I still remember that was the most awesome feeling to sit in the car and you could feel they let the clutch out, and before they hit the mag, you actually felt it in the car.
Oh yeah.
And you could feel it, and all of a sudden you felt the vibrations. And the moment they lit it off, the vibration went away, and you see the car flames pop up and then shoot away from you.
Yeah.
What a great experience that people. I just wish people could do it still.
Yeah.
And it's the simplest of experiences, but that's your passion for racing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, it was a big deal to be down at the hot car lane. You'd turn on the light, and then when there was a break, they'd let you push out. And
But then
then
you
it
had to go
was-
down and help pull the car back
Oh
and
yeah,
turn it around.
back it
again.
up
Yeah.
and turn it around and all that stuff. And I remember one time, Red and Lyle were also promoters besides owning the drag strip. They would put on a huge car show down on Speedway in between this big building in between Craycroft and Wilmot, and they used to call it Motorama. They did it in 1965 and 1966, and it was huge. I mean, corporations got involved. But the one thing that I remember, there was a couple things. I think his name was Chuck Poole at a wheel stander.
Mhm.
They shut down Speedway in between. They actually shut it down between Wilmot and Craycroft, and he went out and did wheel stands. But what was better than that is at the time Bill Breck Dodge was like the big Dodge dealership here in town. Evel Knievel came to one of those shows. They brought 16 or 17 Dodges, parked them on Speedway, and Knievel jumped over them. And this was on Speedway. To experience all that kind of stuff I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Me too. And I can just picture, I've seen Tucson grow up, so I'm, back in Tucson was a smaller town.
Yep.
A lot smaller. And people knew people, and for the shutdown, that was a main drag through, road through town. And to get the city behind it and allow you to do it, there was a lot of community back in the day.
I don't know that the city was behind it.
Well, they allowed you to do it.
Well, I think Red and Lyle knew some cops.
Okay.
We'll just leave that at that.
Okay, okay. We can't go into there, and there might
Yeah.
be some. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll close that page.
Yeah.
So you go forward, you take a little time out of racing, but you still love racing. I know you've taken some pictures. You got some other things that you like. But what bit your bug to get back into
Well,
racing?
when '97, when they opened up this track, I went out. I wanted to get back involved, and so I came out here and started doing tech. And it wasn't a year late. Ben Wilson was out here doing tech, and he took me aboard. And Ben got busy with the national event stuff and all that. Ultimately, I ended up being the tech director out here, and it kept me involved. Later on, I started working the staging lanes. I was a staging director for 4 or 5 years. It was my passion, burning rubber. Who doesn't love it? But what happened for me to really get back involved was, so 62, 2012 was the 50th anniversary of Tucson Dragway. So I went over to Reds and I says, we need to do something. He says, you're right, we do. So I then decided to become an amateur promoter. And,
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, right. So, and that's why I'll always. That's all I'm going to ever take claim for is that I'm an amateur race promoter. So I said, let's put on a reunion race, and we did. We ended up with a dozen cackle cars and some other stuff, and I ran it really low key. Brought the WFA in the first event, which was a big deal, and we started running with it. And I did it for years and years and years until. Well, actually, even this year, I'm still involved in the Uncle Dan's Tri-5 deal I got rolling on. I mean, obviously, because of the state of our country right now, it has been tuned way down, which is fine. And Matt didn't want to let this event go away.
So Matt DeYoung.
Yeah.
So you were part of the Tucson Dragway, old Tucson Dragway reunion for Tucson Dragway here, and initially when the track opened up, it wasn't called Tucson Dragway here.
Southwestern International
And
Raceway.
when Jim Hughes came and took the track over, eventually it became Tucson.
Yeah, there's a whole story behind that too. So, Tucson Dragway was trademarked. A buddy of mine died. His wife turned the trademark over to me. So, when Matt and Jim took over the place, when John Bradford and Tom Keenan decided they were done, they had left IHRA and they were not going to run the track anymore. IHRA had brought some different managers in, and we tried to keep it going, but IHRA was struggling at the time, and they decided that they were done with drag racing. So I seriously looked into taking over the lease of the track. And I talked to some of my mentors, and they said, don't do it. And I knew Hughes was in the running for it. So I called up Jim, and I said, Jim, here's the deal, buddy. So he came down. Matt came down here with him, and we kind of walked around and looked around. And like Jim said, he always wanted to have a restaurant. It just so happened that this one had a drag strip attached to it, and they had left. And I'd called Hughes, and Matt just completely impressed me. And I called Hughes when he was driving back to Phoenix. I said, "You don't need to hire a manager. You already got one," and that was Matt DeYoung.
They're both
Good
special
kid.
people.
Yeah.
Awesome. If you knew his dad, you know where Matt came. Matt, he's just like his dad. And his dad was a great person that mentored me and got me in a lot of places through the years. His dad was in my wedding. So
there you go.
So it's a small world. The drag racing is a small family spread out all over the place, and it's fun. So Tucson Dragway, Jim Hughes has a lot of experience as a racer, knows what he liked and didn't like. Tucson needs a drag strip. You saw the deal, but you came in and you helped promote different events and the reunion events, and your passion's here, and you've been here to help out. And a lot of what you've done, so it's like this is part of your Arizona drag racing legend, because your passion for racing. It takes somebody to put his name on the bottom line and sign an agreement and pay the checks, but it takes a group of people to help support the passion, and you're one of them. And you should be very proud of that. You now do tell us about your Tri-5.
Well, this is just a thing. I got approached a couple years ago by the people who do the Tri-5 Nationals, and we talked about doing one on the West Coast. Ultimately, Bakersfield got the deal, which I believe it got canceled this year. My passion is Tri-5 Chevys. Half of the Tri-5s that are out in the pits this weekend are cars that I used to own. And I thought, you know what, let's just put together a bracket race for the Chevys. So 55, 6, and 7 Chevys, we're going to have a bracket race for it. And Matt came up with this Uncle Dan's Tri-5 Showdown, so that's
Your Uncle
what we
Dan.
did. Yeah, I'm Uncle
The legend.
Dan, and yeah, a legend in his own mind.
On your own time.
Yeah, and I built some neat trophies for it, and it was just kind of a fun deal. And all these kids that have these cars now, for me, what I love about the sport of drag racing is these young kids are buying cars with a small block Chevy and coming out and drag racing instead of a Toyota Supra or a Nissan Maxima or whatever, and I can't take away the import part of it, because when I was drag racing, I drag raced Volkswagens for many, many years. I won the bug-in a few times here up in Phoenix, Orange County, and that for me was my claim of fame. I've had several race cars, class cars, junior fuelers, super gas. I've had it all, but I never raced any of them competitively. It was just more come out to the drag strip, fire it up, make a hit,
make some noise,
put it in the trailer.
Feel the need for speed.
Yeah.
What you've done with the reunion race, it's kind of given, not kind of, it absolutely has given the Arizona Drag Racer Hall of Fame in Southern Arizona a home.
Right.
And we definitely tie a lot together with Tucson Dragway, just as the Gusick Drag Race Reunion in Phoenix that takes care of the other part of the state.
Right.
We have it's a nice honor to be. There's names of people are in there that I'm sure that you're going in and Red's in there and you're looking at that's my mentor, that's my idol.
He's my hero, man. The guy's 85 years old.
Yep. And
you had the honor to interview him earlier, and he doesn't forget anything.
Well,
and
Clint Eastwood it just turned 90. They ask him, how do you stay so young? How do you stay so active? And Clint Eastwood's answer is, I don't let the old man in.
Right, and that's Red.
That's Red.
That's Red.
Red, there's nothing.
And he's always got a smile on his face.
Yeah, he's always got a smile on his face. He's an inspiration to us all.
Yeah.
And I think anybody just needs to get a dose of Red from time to time.
Yeah, here I am getting the goosebumps again.
So, but there you are. But there's people like that that are in that. And there's a lot of big time drag racers and some smaller guys and people that there's other people in the Hall of Fame that maybe not been a drag racer, but they did things to support the sport that kept it going when it needed help. And you certainly have filled both. You've been a racer, you've been an announcer, you've been a track employee, you've been a promoter. I look forward to seeing what you do in the future, because I don't think you're finished with your love of drag racing.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, no, it's just like gives you a place to be and keeps you out of jail, hopefully. So.
Yeah, for me, it's like a drug. There's one of the kids out here that has a 55 Chevy drag car that I bought. There was a fellow that used to race out here in the days. his name was Bob Blakely, and it's I rode in the back seat of that car when I was a kid on the streets. And back then that was a true 10-second car.
Wow.
Street driven.
That was fast.
And I bought this car a couple years ago after Bob passed, and I was going to do something with it, and my friend Adam just he lives and breathes the Tri-5 Chevy stuff. So I sold it to him, and it's out here today, so I'm anxious to see it run.
Well, they're not making them anymore.
No.
But they're making them better. And
Yeah.
they keep, you can retro mod a Tri-5, you can, look, Danny Lovett has a 57?
Beautiful. No, 55.
55, excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Danny. But it's been it's new chassis, but it's a beautiful car. And the heritage of that, but that's the heritage of drag racing, is those older cars. I mean, used to be, that used to be the cars that were, in the lanes.
Right.
Bill Gusick's first race car was a Tri-5. Different, that's what they had, and they were all over the place, and they're affordable. So it's got to make you feel good to see that still going on, and people not afraid to knock the dust off and bring their car out to the track.
I've got 4 of them right now, and they all get driven.
Yeah.
And that's what you're supposed to do with them, is drive them.
Well, one of these days we hope you can be able to afford to buy a new car.
Nah, I'm good. And the other good thing about them is they're easy to work on.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I was younger. I worked on a car that I was lucky. It took a 9/16 half-inch wrench, a screwdriver, and a pair of pliers. I could fix most everything with those deals, and we can't do that anymore. So
Not anymore.
The simpler life. Well, Dan, congratulations, number one, on the Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
It's well deserved. I know how it feels to be put on a list with people who have been your idols.
I'm humbled.
It's very humbling, but it's well deserved, and you will be on that list forever.
Yep.
And now we've interviewed you as an Arizona drag racing legend, and whether we call you the legend or not, you're still Dan Owen, and you're still the guy that has a passion for racing, and a big reason why they're still racing in Tucson, Arizona, and we appreciate it. Congratulations on being an Arizona drag racing legend.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.